You know what separates a junior developer from a senior developer? It's not years of experience, it's knowing which tools the pros actually use in production. So while you're still importing system.collection.generic for every project, Microsoft engineers are using libraries that most developers have never even heard of. So I've been digging through Microsoft's actual production code bases, Azure, Office 365, and even their AI systems. And there's a lot of libraries there that can really massively improve your performance. So here's the kicker. These aren't just theoretical tools from some blog post. These are battle-tested libraries handling billions of requests every day. Now, are you ready to code like Microsoft Elite engineers? Let's dive in today. All right, so most C# developers stick to the same old libraries that everyone's talked about and that they've used forever. Entity Framework, AutoMapper, maybe Poly if you're really feeling adventurous. But Microsoft production teams, they're using tools that solve real performance problems at massive scale. So I want to share with you 10 elite libraries that Microsoft engineers rely on, but a lot of them developers are ignoring. Now we're going to dive right into some code here today because I want to share with you some little code snippets here, and we're going to kind of go through some of these. All right, so right off the bat, we're going to dig into like some of the bigger pieces that we have here. And let's dive right into this code here. All right, so let's talk about primary constructors, right? This was the constructor revolutionary that Microsoft embraced. So C# 12 was a game changer. Microsoft teams have adopted primary constructors across their newest services, eliminating massive amounts of constructor boilerplate. So they're, usually what used to take 15 to 20 lines of parameter validation, now you can see are built right into the class declaration, right? And so this is dependency injection perfection. Microsoft ASP.NET Core teams use primary constructors for clean service registration without repetitive constructor patterns. Now the validation, so combine this with regular properties, primary constructors create bulletproof object initialization without manual null checks. So the real production use here is Azure services built with .NET 8 leverage this pattern extensively for configuration classes and service constructors. So the performance bonus here is this is less IL code generation, which means faster compilation and slightly improved runtime performance for object creation. All right, let's dive into the second one here, collection expressions, right? So this is Microsoft's secret to clean data handling. C# 12 hidden gem is collection expressions which eliminate the verbose new list equals string, item one, etc., right? So now you can say list of an int numbers equals, and you can just give it the list, right? So Microsoft teams can now use this syntax for any collection type, making coding more reliable and maintainable. The spread operator, so you can see here is more numbers, right? This spread operator lets Microsoft engineers combine collection elegantly without manual loops or link complexity. So collection expressions generate more efficient IL code than traditional collection initialization methods. So Microsoft's newest API return collections using this syntax, making their public interfaces cleaner and more modern. Now, there's a legacy code migration here, right? Teams are gradually refactoring older services to use collection expressions during maintenance cycles. Now, let's talk about recyclable memory patterns, right? So let me dive into this next one here, right? So we're going to dig into a couple of these other ones. So there's some of the code generation revolution that's happening here. So next we're going to talk about required properties. And this is a validation game changer here, right? So required properties force initialization at object creation time, eliminating entire categories of null reference bugs. So used extensively in configuration classes and DTOs throughout Azure services for bulletproof data handling, this is an important thing. You can see the new required keyword here, right? Combined with primary constructors, required properties often eliminate the need for explicit constructors entirely. Now, Microsoft teams use required properties as the first line of defense before more complex validation frameworks. So public APIs use required properties, are self-documented, and prevent common integration mistakes. Now, Microsoft gradually adds required properties to existing classes during refactoring cycles without breaking changes. So you can definitely see that this is one that becomes important here. All right, so this next one we're going to cover here is the file scoped namespace, right? And this was introduced to us in C# 10, but this really became a space saver, right? Microsoft's teams adopted file scope namespaces to eliminate one level of indentation across the entire code base. More code fits on screen without horizontal scrolling, improving code review efficiency. Microsoft's coding standards now mandate file scope namespace for all new development. Now, teams gradually convert existing files during maintenance without breaking existing functionality. So Visual Studio and VS Code templates now default to file scoped namespace for Microsoft development workflows, right? You can see an example right here, right? So it puts the class and the person and puts it all right into like one line. So in a code base with millions of lines, the code space and readability improvements are significant. Now, I have a kind of mixed emotions about this one. I know it's one thing you're seeing into Microsoft code. I still think we should stick to more traditional ones. But if you're working on embedded or you have something where space really becomes a huge thing, this can become really important. And so this is something that is now supported. Probably not one you're seeing as common, but in case you come across some Microsoft code base, wanted to make sure that you understand what these ones are used for. All right, this next one is top level statements. Now, this one doesn't really make a whole lot of context right here inside of this, but normally this allows you to start without having to use the old school main class, right? So Microsoft's newer console applications and minimal APIs use top level statements to eliminate main method boilerplate. So this becomes a microservice simplification. Azure functions and minimal API projects start with just business logic, so you can dive right in the code instead of having to have all the boilerplate. I remember the first time I ever started to try to write a C# project and I didn't understand what the structure of it was and everything you had to do to get to main. So gone are the days of the old pure C style syntax to get a class started. Microsoft Teams use top level statements to rapid prototyping and proof of concept development. Microsoft's training material now start with business logic rather than explaining a class and namespace structure. So many of Microsoft's lightweight services run in production using top level statement declarations. And so this is something that you're going to see across the board. You're going to start seeing more and more of this with our next one, which is the minimal APIs. Now let's talk about this next one here. So minimal APIs. I think this is absolutely game changer because for a long time we would use like PHP on a small system or something like that where you could just dive in and get right to the code. Now gone are those days, right? There's minimal APIs with modern C# is a Microsoft's lightweight revolution. So everybody who's saying that it needs to be heavy, you can run a full API here in literally 4 lines of code, right? This actually will get you a full API in 4 lines of code. And so minimal APIs combined with top-level statements and primary constructors create an ultralight web service. The startup performance means just faster application startup times compared to traditional controller-based architectures. So this is super memory efficient, right? Lower memory footprint for simple API scenarios that don't need a full MVC framework features, right? Microsoft Teams can build and deploy simple API and minimal configurations and maximum focus on business logic. So the beauty of this, if you need a simple API, you can stand it up, stick it there, and we use this all the time across various different Linux systems. So this is perfect for Microsoft's microservice architecture where each service has a focused responsibility. So you can also look for this to save on cloud cost optimization. Lower resource usage translates to reduced cloud hosting costs at Microsoft scale. Now, if your company needs help with systems, make sure you reach out to us because here at Startup Hack, our specialty is connecting systems so that your company can work to maximum efficiency. Check out startuphack.com/Spencer because we'd love to help you out. Now, the recyclable memory stream, and this is a memory saver here, right? So Microsoft Bing team discovered that using new memory streams and high volume APIs causes large object heap fragmentation and frequent garbage collection pauses. So at scale, this leads to out-of-memory exceptions that can crash your entire application under load. Now, recyclable memory streams solves this by reusing internal buffers through sophisticated pooling mechanisms. It provides detailed diagnostics for memory usage patterns, helping you optimize before problems occur. This library reduces allocations by up to 85% compared to standard memory stream usage. So Microsoft uses this extensively in Azure services that processes millions of requests per second. So you want to definitely get to learn to use this instead of just standard memory stream. So use this recyclable memory stream manager, as this is a new class you definitely want to make sure that you're using, and you just pull down Microsoft.io to get these, right? Now, let's talk about Dapper. Dapper is one of my favorite. I love using Dapper because all you have to do is say using Dapper, grab your SQL client, you use your SQL connection, and boom, now you can do select from. And I really like this because Entity Framework hides a lot of stuff, especially from junior developers, that can cause really bad system performance. I see Entity Framework being just treated as this black box and people don't understand what they're querying. Whereas when you're using actual SQL statements, You can optimize your queries. You can see exactly what's coming back, and you can optimize it to only give you just the data you need and do this. And then it maps it very simply to give you a very quick map to use this. I've been using Dapper for over a decade. I highly recommend the use of Dapper. I train all of my junior developers on it, and even my senior developers that I've converted from any frameworks. This always performs faster than any framework. I have never seen somebody can beat it using Entity Framework. It just is more performant, and it's keeping the SQL query where the SQL code where it belongs in the code, not in some stored procedure or buried in a database somewhere where production deployments become a nightmare. Now let's talk about this next one here for the JSON, right? Microsoft replaced Newtonsoft JSON across their entire stack with system.text.json for good reason. The performance difference here for the system.text.json is huge, right? The performance difference is staggering. It's up to 2 to 3 times faster, 2 times faster for serialization and 3 times faster for deserialization. It uses a span of T and memory T under the hood to minimize allocation during JSON processing. Microsoft realizes that JSON is what powers the web, and Microsoft Web Services see measurable latency improvements just from switching JSON libraries. The API is designed specifically for high throughput scenarios that Microsoft deals with every day. So if you're still using Newtonsoft.json for new projects, you are leaving some massive performance just sitting on the table. Switch to system.text.json. Way, way, way better. Now, let's talk about serial log here, right? Microsoft engineering teams generate a massive amount of logging data, as does every project I've ever worked on, because I'm a data hog. And serial log handles it elegantly with structured logging. Unlike traditional string-based logging, serial log captures rich, queryable data that helps diagnose production issues. Microsoft uses serial log semantic logging throughout Azure services to track performance metrics and error patterns. The library sync system allows write logs to multiple destinations simultaneously without performance impacts. Serial logs filtering capabilities let Microsoft engineers reduce noise while capturing critical diagnostic information. So when you're debugging issues in production, structured logging becomes absolutely essential for the root cause analysis. So get used to using serial log and start using it in all your projects. All right, now, of course, it wouldn't be complete if we weren't talking here about Poly, right? So Microsoft's cloud service faces network failures, service timeouts, and transient errors constantly. Poly handles them gracefully. The library implements retry policies, circuit breakers, and bulkhead isolation patterns that prevent cascading failures. So you can see how it's used here, right? Policy.handle exception, and then it can say do retry 3 times, right? And then it will do the execute this, right? So it provides sophisticated backoff strategies and jitter to prevent the thundering herd problem during recovery. Poly's policy, say that 10 times fast, Poly's policy composition allows combining multiple resilient patterns for complex failure scenarios. So in a distributed system, this library is the difference between a brief hiccup and a complete server outage. Now, there's some other ones that we want to talk about here, right? So you've got media TR, which is clean architecture, right? And the sample uses which include defining I of T request handlers and registering services. So go check out media T-R. I'm just going to give it a call out here. Next one is fluent validation, right? This allows you to validate business rules as you're using them, right? So this is business rule validation, where you can say a rule for X is to check that it's not empty and has a minimum length of 3. Next one is benchmark.net, right? This is a library that you can go out and grab with very simple ways, but this allows you to then do tests against things and run and see what those benchmark tests run as. So this gives you performance benchmarking. Of course, there's XUnit. If you're going to be doing unit testing code, XUnit's great. I even use XUnit as a great harness for just writing like integration tests and things like that for while I'm developing. Swashbuckle is the new Swagger doc, right? So it's the new way that we're adding Swagger docs into the system. So as of more recent, we're using now adding to use Swagger dot, you use Swagger generation, right? So Swashbuckle is your go-to there. Mapster is your high performance object mapping, right? So you can just say destination DTO, you can do your source and do adapt. You can call the adapt library and it will automatically do this mapping for you. Very, very powerful mapping. And of course, with everything else, you can do NSWAG, which is an API client generation, right? It'll generate open API plus C# clients via command line or using NSWAG Studio. So these are some of the basic ones that I like to go through to make sure that every .NET developer knows and is familiar with. If I've gone across stuff here that you aren't familiar with, first of all, leave a comment down below because I'm really curious to hear what things you guys are used to using, which ones you aren't using, and which ones were new to you. So definitely leave a comment down below. Here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers as well as build custom software solutions for companies. So if we can help your company out to make your systems work to maximum efficiency, our specialty is connecting systems. Check out startuphack.com/Spencer, and here's some great information about our services.
Hi, I'm Spencer, a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and 25 years in software development, I've transformed technology teams and products for businesses just like yours. As your fractional CTO, you get the strategic guidance of a seasoned technology executive without the full-time commitment, perfect for companies ready to leverage cutting-edge technology without expanding headcount. My team at Startup Hack has already built advanced AI agents for small and medium businesses, automating complex workflows and delivering advanced ROI to human workflows. We specialize in creating custom software that connects your systems into a single coherent technology ecosystem. Our development approach focuses on tangible business outcomes. For one client, we developed AI-powered workflows that cut days off of human processes. For another company, by connecting multiple systems, we reduced processing time to increase their ROI by over 75%. We don't just write code, we architect solutions that scale. Whether you need cloud system architecture, data integration between legacy systems, or custom AI agents that automate your unique business processes, my team delivers results that exceed your expectations. Having led technology for a lot of companies and launched 7 successful brands of my own, I bring battle-tested expertise to your business challenges. Our specialty is turning technological complexity into business advantage. So if you're ready to harness the power of AI and custom software to drive your business forward, let's connect. Together, we'll build technology that doesn't just solve today's problems, it positions you for tomorrow's opportunities. Technology leadership, decades of experience, AI powered. Reach out today and we can help you. Check out startuphack.com/Spencer.